Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We start with a look at yesterday's maximum wind gusts on the 23rd, and you can see clearly in the midsection of the country there was a large region in through here that was experiencing wind speeds in excess of 50 miles an hour, with a few pockets there where the winds were gusting well over 70 miles an hour. Those stronger winds extended to a much larger area, as you can see. You're getting over into parts of the central and eastern Corn Belt and all the way down to the southern plains, where we did see at times winds again sustained in the 40 to 60 mile an hour range. This is all happening due to a rapidly developing cyclone that's now going to be moving toward the northeast in the next couple of days. I would like to show you what it looked like on a visible satellite here, zoomed in on the central United States. There's a couple of interesting features to pick out on. First of all, look at the dust. This is all dust being blown. Watch it again here. See it coming right down in this area. That's all dust being blown on these strong northerly winds across parts of the southern plains here. You can also see the snow cover that's here in parts of Nebraska. Watch it again in South Dakota as the skies were clearing, where we actually did have blizzard conditions yesterday. I'll show you those in a few moments, but as of early this morning, the frontal boundary is now pushing through the eastern Corn Belt, heading toward the northeast, and some brutally cold air is behind this. Now, just taking a look at the last 14 days of precipitation with respect to normal up until the day before yesterday, what we can see here is that things were quite dry in parts of the northern plains, also pockets down here in Texas. And despite some of the heavier snows we did get, into this area, which was keeping it with above average precipitation. Notice that in the previous animation, there was no snow on the ground in those particular regions. We're going to be watching for quite a bit of change in this map coming very soon. And I have some very good news for parts of Southern California as well. So to kind of complement that previous map, let's go look at the latest 4-inch soil moisture map here. And really what I want to focus on are our southerly regions and regions where the soil temperatures have yet to freeze. So bringing more precipitation in through here, we're going to see quite a bit of change in the northeast as some of that snow melts on the warmth that's coming. But you can see down here in parts of Texas, getting over to the Four Corners states, several regions here, sitting in that 0 to 5% range on soil moisture in the top 4 inches. So I did mention what those soil temperatures look like, and as of early this morning here on the 24th, you can see pretty clearly who's above freezing and who's below freezing. And we're expecting some change in this map here, with a lot of these sub-freezing soil temperatures at 4 inches advancing here toward the east. But we're going to get a brief warm-up in here in the parts of the northeast, where we do have a lot of flood warnings out today simply due to the melt of that snow. Talking about snow, this is how much we did get over the last 72 hours. So just showing you here that with those very strong winds putting down anywhere between 2 and 6+ inches of snow, we did have blizzard conditions yesterday across a broad section here of the plains and the western Corn Belt due to those strong winds and the snow that was coming down. And I want to show it to you. I'm going to start over here on the right. Cody sent this video to me via Twitter the other day in South Dakota. Just kind of give you a flavor of how low the visibility was here and how bad things were with those strong winds and the snow that was falling. And then just to take you from there back over to Steamboat Springs, this video went viral. It's amazing time-lapse video here of the snow, almost a snow squall spreading over Steamboat Springs here up in the mountains in Colorado. Just impressive to say the least. Okay, from there, let's go ahead and take a look next at what our all hazards weather map is looking like. With the brutally cold air that's coming out of the backside, we got wind chill warnings. You can see lake effect snow is going to be the issue here on the Great Lakes, so major lake effect snow potential here on Lake Erie. We do have winter storm warnings that are out for parts of the Appalachian Mountains surrounded by winter weather advisories, and a lot of what's going up the East Coast here is flood and wind. Those are all flood and wind advisory. Strong winds in the south and southeast, and also still watching out for the potential for another freeze here. And when you think about this, out ahead of this storm system, we still have severe thunderstorm watch this morning down here over parts of Alabama and Mississippi. And this severe weather threat is going to translate to the north and east. And you can see that early this morning, looking at our lightning data here, very active storms moving out of Louisiana through southern Mississippi and over into Alabama. The Storm Prediction Center today has given an enhanced risk for severe storms here along the Carolina coast, as you can see, with a broader area of, a slight risk in this area. And I was out just looking this morning at some of the forecast soundings, and I'll tell you something, looking at a hodograph like this just tells us what the wind shear profile looks like. We like to teach our students that you want to look for this particular shape if you're going to be seeing some discrete cells that could be potentially producing some potential rotation with the threat of tornadoes, which, by the way, there's a 10% threat in North Carolina today. As you notice, though, the wind shear definitely changing direction with height. Got some strong shear, very high helicity numbers out of this, but we're limited relatively on stability or instability. Some will build late this afternoon, and that's why the threat is relatively high for this area. So let me show it to you by just getting us caught up here with our high-resolution NAM model. So this is 6 o'clock this morning. So in the warm sector out ahead of the main frontal boundary, which is way back here, okay, you're going to see the potential in this region for these discrete cells that pull through. And as the front progresses throughout the morning hours, be watching out over here in parts of eastern Tennessee, Kentucky, and Ohio for the switch over to snow. Could get a brief mixing in here of some ice while the main push of the strong thunderstorms ahead of this by 5 o'clock tonight is right here along the coast. Now you can see the flood threat in the northeast with the melting happening due to the warmth and the heavier rains that are coming through here. But you can tell how cold the air is on the backside. You can see the lake effect snow coming off the lakes here by 5 o'clock this evening. Now, as we work our way into the overnight hours, it's almost like a secondary pulse. There's another shortwave that kicks out of the Gulf here, and it's going to reinvigorate the low on its backside, and that's why we continue to see snow here in parts of Pennsylvania, getting over into West Virginia, Ohio, and this is really going to kick off quite a bit of snow once again right here on Lake Erie. So as we kind of let this play forward, this is now getting into early Friday morning, the bulk of that rain moving through New York, where we have a lot of snow-covered ground into this area. And then as we work our way into Friday afternoon and evening, it's just going to continue to be the lake effect snow cutting around the backside of this with some, brief but potentially intense little bands of snow, not bands, excuse me, but little convective bursts of snow on the backside of this. Meanwhile, we do see our next system pulling into California by 7 p.m. on Friday and into the parts of the Pacific Northwest. And that gets us all the way up to Saturday morning. So we're going to get a brief break here after Christmas in the midsection of the country, but things are going to get going again pretty quickly. So let me just give you the total precip amounts through Monday morning. And so what we're really going to focus in on here is waiting on that next system in the midsection of the country where it is dry, and also dry through parts of the Canadian Prairie where we did just get quite a bit of snow in this area. I saw some great video from Calgary of some of the snow. But you can see that from the storms that are pulling through here, there's the potential with this first system of getting, upwards of an inch to an inch and a half of precipitation out of this, hence the high flood threat here with the melting snow. The system coming in on the backside here in California. So speaking of snow, this is what the operational European model is picking up on right here. So the potential here for 8+ inches of snow right along Lake Erie is relatively high. We will see the lake effect snow coming off both of the Great Lakes. But notice this. For folks that are looking for a white Christmas, it appears that right in through this area, getting up toward Lake Erie, best chances of it here. Now, this map is going to change quite a bit as we get out past next Monday into the middle of next week, and I got to show you what the heck is going on there. And to do that, we're going to go straight to the jet stream level winds. So what you're following here is the flow of the upper atmospheric winds, or upper tropospheric winds. So let's get past the first system and pause it right here. This is now Saturday. As we work our way through the weekend, you can see the flow right here just slamming into California. That's the weekend precipitation building in there. But it splits across the midsection of the country, as you can see, hence the drier weekend here in the mid part of the U.S. Now, as we get out into, this is Sunday afternoon getting into Sunday evening, you do see that the jet stream kind of comes right around the base of this trough. So I'll show you a little system that's going to develop here over the Great Lakes once we then get out into the day on Monday. But what I'm really focused in on is the trough that's cutting into the west. See it right here? Watch as I go from Monday morning to then getting into Tuesday morning. What we end up getting is a pretty well-developed trough here that's going to start off with some positive tilt to it that's going to eventually inflect and start to pivot around to give us some negative tilt. And what that means is that's going to give us a pretty rapidly intensifying cyclone in the midsection of the country. Now, at this particular point, next Wednesday morning, what would have been ideal was to keep the fastest winds right in the base of the trough and better couple with this jet streak that's here over the Great Lakes. That would have given us some rapid development of a low right here over the southern plains. But as it is, the trough at least is continuing to kind of go back over to that negative tilt and fling itself over here into the eastern part of the United States. So we'll still get quite a bit of good upper level motion. Now, that gets us all the way up to the end of the year. And I just want you to see, stacked up behind this, there's another trough cutting in here and another. And the source region for this just continues to come out of Alaska and the Gulf of Alaska. But why I'm telling you about all of that is to now show you the operational European model. So we've watched all the way through here. Let's get out to Saturday morning. That's the first system exiting. Here comes that strong onshore wind into California. This is Saturday morning, afternoon, and evening. You can see the effect of that pushing the snow into the parts of the Pacific Northwest, but high pressure dominating over the southeast. As we go forward, this is the thing I'm concerned about. On Monday, there's the first system. Remember I showed you that little wave coming through here? So here's the first system. Early Monday morning, looks as though the frontal boundary should be right here around midnight, getting into the early morning hours. So snow on the backside of this, as you can tell, very strong winds in this area. So this is another tight circulation with big high pressure cells on either side of it. But after that one pulls in toward, out of Ontario into Quebec here, and then we see the next system taking shape. So a critical piece of this on Tuesday morning is the presence of this high, bringing in enough cold air into this area and suppressing or pushing this low farther to the south. Now, we're looking at an operational run, and there's going to be a lot of change on this, and I look forward to giving you an update on Monday morning. But what you've got here is that by Tuesday afternoon and evening, this low is trying to get itself organized here and pull through parts of Missouri. Now, to the south, we're expecting some very heavy rainfall next Wednesday with a transition over to freezing rain and sleet and with snow on the backside of this. Now, this low has been in the last 4 or 5 model runs. It's had a different position and strength, but as it sweeps through there, it could potentially intensify going toward the Great Lakes. And as you can see, another situation where we have quite a bit of snow and some very strong winds around the backside of this low. Meanwhile, you see the next trough cutting into the west, bringing more precipitation into California, which is something we really want to see. To test the model here, to see how well it is picking up on this, I went out to next Tuesday evening just to see that the models were clustering in here on the development of a low, and they were keeping that high pressure cell here with the European ensemble in place over like Lake Erie here. So there's some agreement in this, which is why when I go to show you this map, I've got a bit of confidence in it. What I'm really going to focus in on is right in through this area. This is going out to New Year's Eve, looking at the probability of getting 3 inches. And with that storm system developing here and then cutting toward the Great Lakes, with that high pressure system keeping the colder air in, we're just going to have to watch this corridor for the potential for picking up some heavy snows. What you see over here, this is the system going through today. And the west certainly adding to their snowpack, which is what we like to see. Going out to day 10, look at this flow. Screaming across the Pacific, builds into a small ridge across the west, but there's going to be troughing here that's almost going to be a semi-permanent feature to finish this year and start 2021. And the reason why, large ridge building into Greenland. This is part of what we call the negative phase of the North Atlantic Oscillation. From there, going all the way out to day 15 in the forecast, again, very strong jet stream flow across the Pacific. Troughs continue to sweep across the U.S. It's a very active setup here, and it's complements of this large ridge building into Greenland with all the troughs coming out of Alaska. This is the pattern we're set up in, and it's a favorable one for quite a bit of active weather. So you notice here, see the flow coming in? See the activity here across the eastern part of North America. I'm expecting multiple systems to come through the United States like this as we get into the first full week of January. So prepare for that with that negative NAO pattern. We're going to finish up with temperatures. 420 this morning. You can see how cold that air is on the backside of that front. We're talking negative 9, negative 10 degrees up here, and it's sweeping through on those stronger winds. Out ahead of it, though, quite a bit of warm air, which is going to be supportive of that severe weather threat here across parts of North and South Carolina and parts of Virginia. Just to show you how much the temperatures have changed. For example, look there in Iowa. Some places have seen well in excess of a 30-degree swing in temperatures as this front comes blasting through. So what are our max temperatures looking like today? Well, we do see a lot of single digits and negative single digits here in this part of the western Corn Belt getting up toward the Great Lakes states. But big time warmth out ahead of this, hence the snow melt. But as you can imagine, that colder air moves east on Friday and Saturday. Let me show you Friday again. There's Friday's high temperatures, and then Saturday. And with the split flow coming into the midsection of the country for the weekend, we do get another warm up here. See the temperatures going back up into the 40s and 50s. Sunday, that pulls a little bit to the east, but remember, on Monday, we have our first system cutting right here through the Great Lakes, strong northerly winds, keeping it cool, and then you're going to see going from Monday into Tuesday, this is where the active pattern sets up, racing that trough right here out of the New Mexico, Texas, and taking it up Wednesday into Thursday here into the Great Lakes states, so we're going to have to watch that one carefully. Day 5 through 10, you're going to see the models continuing to keep a cool bias in this area, and that's because the models are putting down snow, and so there's a sensible heat flux there that's keeping that on the cooler side of things. But going out to day 10 through 15, you do see that the European is cooler here than the GFS, which is over there on the left. But both are kind of keeping this area here over on the slight warm bias. Now, it's Canada in January. It's still cold, but it's still got a slight warm bias here. And we have to just step back and take a look at a couple of things that could be a part of this. We do see that by the time we begin January, a pretty substantial ridge in the stratosphere is building over the Arctic, and it appears that that is going to split the polar vortex and substantially weaken it. It may take some time for this to translate its way down into the lower atmosphere. But what I want to point out is when you know that that's going on and the MJO is trying to come out here over onto the cooler side of things and not on the warmer side of things, it would just tend to tell me that this map probably has some, possible, could be right, is what I'm trying to say for the middle and end of January. If we keep the Arctic oscillation negative, the NAO negative, and we get that disruption of the polar vortex, I am expecting cold air to be coming in and through this particular region as we work our way through the month of November. Through January. I'm going to get my months right here. So one last thing I want to point out here. Let's talk about La Nina briefly. We do know that the strong trade winds here right over Nino region 3.4, which is in the Central Pacific, are making a big final push, but there is some warming here over towards South America, indicating that throughout January, our La Nina will likely peak and start to weaken. But just thinking about that, I want to show you a correlation map with El Nino and La Nina in January temperatures. Now, when you look at this correlation map over there on the right, just remember that if there is an El Nino, the warmer colors would signify a warmer January. So it would typically be cooler here if there was an El Nino and warmer to the north. But we don't have that. We have a La Nina. And as a result, those warmer colors, looking at correlation pattern, remember here, would suggest that that would be a colder January time period for the northern tier of the United States with warmer conditions much farther to the south. Now, this is just the background La Nina state. Remember, with that negative NAO, if it sticks around for a while, that could be something that would really offset this cooler bias down here, the warmer bias over the south. So we'll keep an eye on it, report back to you. For those of you celebrating, I hope you all have a great Christmas. I look forward to giving you new updates as we get into that critical week between Christmas and New Year. I will be including a separate video about South America today, so be sure to check that out. Thanks for your attention.